Welcome to Carolina Real Estate Insider, the podcast where we break down the news of the day affecting real estate in the greater Charlotte area. I'm your host, Realtor Kathy Smith, and today we're diving into a pressing concern that's gripped the region for quite some time now: the soaring prices of homes. As of 2023, the average sales price in the Charlotte area has skyrocketed to a staggering $461,000, making the dream of homeownership seem like an elusive fantasy for many. But it doesn't end there. With 30-year fixed-rate mortgages hovering at 7.19%, a scant 1.71 month supply of homes in inventory, and fierce competition from investors, the market dynamics are undoubtedly challenging. The monthly payments for the average home have reached an astronomical $3,126, leaving aspiring homeowners, especially those entering the market, feeling priced out and disheartened. Are buyers today caught in a catch-22? Should they abandon the dream of home ownership and embrace renting instead? Have entry-level buyers thrown in the towel, convinced that the market has shut its doors on them? Is there any hope on the horizon for those looking to step onto the property ladder? Stay tuned as we will delve deeply into this topic in today's Carolina Real Estate Insider. In today's episode, we're delving into the ever-evolving landscape of mortgage lending trends, exploring a significant shift away from FHA VA loans towards conventional mortgages and an uptick in cash purchases. The real estate market has undergone remarkable challenges since 2019, and the competitive environment has played a pivotal role in shaping these trends. Joining us today is Chris Bennett, Senior Mortgage Consultant with Prosperity Home Mortgage, to help us understand what is going on in the world of financing. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Hey, Kathy. Thanks for having me.
Glad that you're here. So let's set the stage for today's discussion. Let's rewind to 2019 when FHA, the Federal Housing Administration, and the VA, Veterans Affairs, their loans were still popular choices for many homebuyers. These government-backed loans were favored for their lower down payment requirements and relaxed credit score standards, making them accessible to a broader range of buyers. But let's fast forward to today's market conditions. And right now we're witnessing a notable departure from the FHA VA landscape. What I've seen as one key factor that's driving this shift is the intense competitiveness in the real estate market. As homes in the greater Charlotte area become increasingly scarce and prices soar, buyers are seeking every advantage to stand out in the bidding wars. But Chris, tell us, what are you seeing in regards to the lending trends?
Yeah, so that's a great question, especially with how competitive this market is right now. So really on the lending side of things, what we're looking to do is put our buyers in the best possible position they can be in when they're ready to make an offer. So what does that look like? So definitely you mentioned the shift from government loans to conventional. That's certainly helpful. A lot of sellers, when they're selling their home, want to see buyers come in with an offer that has conventional financing. They don't like government loans as much for various reasons. So certainly the shift to more conventional is playing into this. A lot of times it's coming with more down payment because you have some buyers that are selling a home that has a substantial amount of equity and they're rolling that in as down payment on the new home. That certainly helps your buyers offer when they make an offer on a property so the seller can see not only do they have a conventional loan, but they've got a good amount of down payment there. Something else we like to do as lenders is not just do a typical pre-qualification or pre-approval. We actually take it a step further and go through full underwriting review and approval for every buyer we work with, just because that really puts them in the strongest position they can be in as a buyer. And we do this before they even start looking at homes because the letter we can provide to go along with that offer is very strongly worded. So the seller and their realtor can see that this buyer's been the underwriters reviewed and approved their employment, their income, and their assets. So what else does that show the seller? I mean, obviously, it's a very strong buyer because they've already gone through that process, but it also shows the seller that buyer can probably close quicker, which is another trend we're seeing, is sellers want to close as fast as possible in a lot of cases. So a buyer that's already gone through that initial underwriting phase can close in 2 to 3 weeks very easily.
Well, that is very, very true. I just submitted an offer last week, and that, having those short time frames definitely are playing a key role in this. But Chris, you have another intriguing solution to this problem for our buyers. That would be the down payment assistance programs. Well, my viewers and listeners here, you heard it right. We're talking about down payment assistance programs. They're offering substantial amounts of money to buyers. We're talking about up to $15,000. They're now available, catering to borrowers with income levels, as high as $134,000. My question is this the lifeline that entry-level buyers have been waiting for? So, Chris, tell us exactly what down payment assistance programs are.
Sure. Yeah. So we partner with North Carolina Housing Finance Agency for their programs. They're the entity here in North Carolina that provides funds for down payment assistance. So that's where the funds come from. Now, these funds are, and we'll get into detail about their specific programs here in a little bit, but basically down payment assistance funds are programs available for buyers, eligible buyers. And we'll talk about some of that too, like what does it take to be eligible for these programs? But it's for first-time home buyers and also for repeat buyers. There's programs to get down payment assistance. These funds are given to these buyers at closing, and the amount kind of depends on the eligibility part of it. But the funds can be used for down payment and or closing costs, and don't have to be paid back until a certain amount of time goes by. And we'll get into that in a little bit as well.
Well, Chris, it does sound like down payment assistance is a beacon of hope, but I'm going to play devil's advocate here. It always hasn't been met with open arms. One major downside involved deed restrictions, particularly associated with programs like House Charlotte. These restrictions could dictate the amount of time a homeowner is required to hold the property before selling. And that really could potentially limit their flexibility. But there are also certain perceptions, especially among the sellers, that have contributed to skepticism around down payment assistance. Sellers may fear the increased time to close the deal, more stringent requirements on property condition, or additional costs on their behalf. There's also the concern that a buyer utilizing down payment assistance, they might be perceived as financially weaker, affecting their ability to secure a property. But Chris, that isn't exactly describing today's down payment assistance programs, is it?
No, Kathy, definitely not. So these programs, since their inception, have really evolved a lot in a lot of ways. So to address some of the things you mentioned, there's certainly no financial weakness. There shouldn't be that perception with a buyer that's using one of these programs. There are still requirements they have to meet, and some of them are fairly stringent. So it's not a buyer that has had any significant credit-related issues. They still have to meet certain requirements, so that certainly factors in. And with technology, there's definitely not going to be an issue as far as time frame goes for closing. So basically the way the process works is we as the lender, Prosperity and other lenders that can offer these programs through North Carolina Housing, we underwrite and fully approve that buyer. Then we electronically submit the approval and the loan to North Carolina Housing. And literally, we usually get approval same day for whatever program this buyer is eligible for. So the time frame has been cut down significantly since these programs started. I really don't think there should be any negative perception at all regarding the process with going through and getting these funds, or with the buyer specifically, because again, there's two sets of eyes looking at it, right? Our underwriters reviewing everything and approving it. Then an underwriter at North Carolina Housing is reviewing it and approving it.
Yeah, and I think they really have changed in the last few years. I mean, I remember years ago working with House Charlotte and it taking at least 45 days to close. So it does sound like we've sped up that time frame quite a bit utilizing the technologies of today, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're 30 days close is normal and can accommodate quicker closings, again, with that underwriting and piece being done up front, that can help as well.
Now, Chris, there are some eye-opening numbers that I mentioned in the intro to today's podcast. So tell us about some amazing down payment assistance programs that people can qualify for.
Yeah, I would love to. So there are two main programs offered through North Carolina Housing that we at Prosperity have access to. Now, both of these programs have requirements. there are requirements for both programs that I'll go through real quick. We're not going to dive deep here. There's obviously tons of requirements that the buyer has to meet, but we're just going to kind of give the basics. So to be eligible for either one of the programs I'm about to talk about, a buyer has to be purchasing a property in North Carolina. They have to be a U.S. citizen. They have to have at least a 640 credit score, and they have to occupy the property as their primary residence. The buyer cannot purchase an investment property or second home using down payment assistance funds for these programs we're going to talk about. And both these programs are available for multiple property types. Your single family residence, townhomes, condos. One of them you can also do manufactured housing with. So those requirements are for both these programs we're going to talk about. The first specific program I'm going to talk about is the North Carolina Home Advantage Mortgage Program. So this one is for either first-time home buyers or repeat buyers. So really any buyer, they don't have to be a first-time home buyer, can be eligible for this program. So basically the funds this buyer would get would be equal to 3% of the loan amount. So not the sales price, but this is 3% of the loan amount to go towards down payment. Example, if you've got a buyer whose loan amount, they're borrowing $400,000, then they would be eligible to get $12,000 towards their down payment. The way the down payment assistance funds work for this program and the next program we're going to talk about is the funds are fully forgiven after 15 years. Okay, so basically that means after 15 years, the buyer doesn't have to pay any of the funds back. After 10 years, the funds start getting forgiven at 20% a year. So years 11 through 15, the funds are getting forgiven at 20% each year until year 15, they're fully forgiven. So if a buyer sells that property within the first 10 years, they're going to have to pay the assistance funds back, whatever that amount is. Those funds are actually recorded as a second lien or second mortgage, but it's recorded as a loan with zero interest, and the buyer never has to make any monthly payments or anything to pay it back. Really, the time frame is the 10-year period where if they sell, they have to pay it all back. And then years 11 through 15, they either have to pay a portion of it back or none of it back after year 15. And again, this is available for all loan programs. In this program, you can make up to $134,000. You can't make over $134,000. So that is the loan limit or the income limit for this one.
Now, Chris, just to clarify with this, when you said it's going to be forgiven, I want to make sure our listeners and our viewers here understand we're talking about free money, that there's nothing that they have to pay back. They just have to adhere to the terms of the program that they'll give them. What in that example that you mentioned for $400,000, $12,000 free, right?
That's right. Yeah, once they get to year 15, they don't have to pay any of the money back. It's fully, yep. Nothing's required as far as paying those funds back at that point. Yeah.
Wow. That's
the other thing about this. So the other thing about this first program is there's no sales price limit on this one. There is on the next one we'll talk about, but on the North Carolina Home Advantage, there is no sales price limit, which is good. So,
it is.
So that's the North Carolina Home Advantage. The next one is called the North Carolina First Home Advantage Mortgage. So this one is for first-time home buyers only. It is the program that will give your buyer $15,000 in assistance funds to go towards down payment and or closing costs. Again, it works the same way. It's forgiven after 15 years, meaning the buyer does not have to pay the funds back after the 15-year mark. Again, it's recorded as a second lien, 0% interest, no monthly payments ever required. The income limit on this one is different. It's different in a couple of ways. It's less. So the income limit here is $102,000. So, and it's not just the buyer on this one. So it's total household income cannot exceed $102,000. So if you have one person on the loan application, but multiple people living in the home, then all of the household income gets counted to that $102,000 limit. So that's a little different, obviously, than the first program we talked about. And there's a sales price limit on this one of $480,000.
Wow. But still, that will definitely help a lot of people, even if there is a lower income requirement in regards to that loan program.
Absolutely. And, these limits, as far as the income and sales price limits, have come up a lot over the last 2-3 years. And a lot of that is because of how, where home prices are, because obviously North Carolina Housing monitors that and wants to make these programs available to as many buyers as they can. So they keep expanding their guidelines to make sure they're, making this open to, like I said, as many buyers as they possibly can.
That is great. Well, Chris, I really want to thank you for sharing that information with us today. And that's a wrap for today's episode of Carolina Real Estate Insider. We hope you found our exploration of mortgage lending trends insightful and that it sheds light on the shifting dynamics of the real estate market in the greater Charlotte area. If you're currently navigating the complexities of financing and need expert advice, look no further. Reach out to our trusted mortgage lender, Chris Bennett of Prosperity Home Mortgage. Chris specializes in helping buyers secure the best financing options in this competitive market. Give him a call and let him guide you through the process. And for those of you on the hunt for the home of your dreams, well, I'm here to help assist you in finding the perfect property. Whether you're a first-time buyer or looking to upgrade, I've got the expertise to help you navigate the current market conditions. So don't hesitate. Call Chris for financing and reach out to me for your real estate needs. We're here to help you make your homeownership dreams a reality. Thank you for tuning in to the Carolina Real Estate Insider. Until next time, stay informed, stay empowered, and happy house hunting.